Welcome to Tellypathic, your visit to the world of episodic telly with a strong backbone of Star Trek. We're your two hosts who are mad about telly, Mark and Gary. Hi, Gary!
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
Not bad, not bad. So we've spent about 2 hours just deciding how to start opening and closing these episodes, I feel like. No, it's not really, but we've just been goofing about, trying to get things wrong and getting it all wrong. But anyway, this is the recording now. So, do you want to tell everyone what we're talking about tonight?
Yeah, so tonight we're back with TNG. So last week I said that I was going to pick an episode from TNG. It was my pick this week. And this week it's season 5, episode 2 of TNG, Darmok.
Darmok. Yeah, classic meme episode, right? Classic meme. There's lots of memes about this. Usually not GIFs, but images and words and stuff like that. I've definitely seen T-shirts with this one on.
The Trekkies love this episode for sure.
Love the Darmok and what's said in it.
Yeah. And that was we talked about the Royale last week. I feel like that's an episode that not many people really talk about that much, but Darmok is, I'd say it's got to be up there in a lot of people's top 5, definitely top 10 lists of TNG episodes. I think it's a fan favorite, this episode, and it's definitely in my top 10. Spoilers.
It's not in mine. It's not in mine.
Yeah, interesting. Spoilers. Spoilers. Yeah. Go. Controversy. We'll carry on with the same format as last week. Then I'll give us a light speed review of the episode, and then we'll go back over and talk about some of our notes and stuff that we talked about and review the episode.
Yeah.
So, do you want me to kick off?
Yeah, kick off. Yeah.
Okay, nice one. So, in this episode, it opens with the Enterprise has been sent to make first contact. Well, I say first contact. They had a signal from a race that they have contacted the Federation and Starfleet have talked to before. And they're sent to investigate because that race is sending a signal to talk. They want to talk again. Communications has never been established with this race before.
Yeah, they mentioned there's been seven attempts or something like that, and no one can make head nor tail of what they're trying to say, even with universal communicators.
That's right. So they've sent the top brass. They sent the Picard, the king of diplomacy, and his Galaxy class ship to investigate. And of course, they get there and they can't understand a word that the aliens are saying, despite the universal translator. And
they are talking. Well, they're hearing English, but the words are meaningless to them, right? They're not quite random, but because they keep repeating the same ones, but they don't make any sense. That's the deal.
That's right. And the crew are kind of discussing what they want to do about it. And then the alien captain hits you with the classic phrase, Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra. And everyone's like, what? And he repeats it again. And then he disappears. He gets transported away. And then so does Picard. And Picard and the alien captain are alone on the planet. And the alien ship emits a anti-transport bubble or something around them so that the Enterprise can't transport Picard back up into the Enterprise. And that's where we get the title card. They kind of face off with the alien captain holding 2 knives above his head.
Yeah.
And so, this episode is mostly around communication and how how Picard is going to talk to this captain. It sort of starts off as maybe this is going to be a fight situation and they're going to duel. But it quickly becomes apparent that the captain and the aliens in general aren't interested in fighting. They're trying to communicate.
Yeah.
And they find that there's a common enemy on the planet. And the captain and Picard try and fight it together.
Yeah,
And
and
during
this is a
go on.
deliberate act. This is a deliberate act, isn't it? The captain, Dathon, I think his name
Yeah.
is deliberately putting them in a situation where they have to work together as a means of forcing the communication. And Picard picks up on that and understands a common enemy helps forge friendship
Yes.
and bonds, right? So he
Exactly.
understands. But it's quite an interesting approach. It's like, again, it's kind of an illustration. This alien race just think differently from
Yes.
all the other races we've encountered, right? Their way of doing things is kind of literal and allegorical, obviously, but it's kind of an interesting thing that's going on there. Because first time I saw it, I misremembered it. I thought it was they'd somehow got there by mistake. But rewatching this one, it's a deliberate act. Yeah, which
Yeah.
makes more sense actually. Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, it gets revealed that through this process of the alien and Picard fighting this common enemy, they figure out. Well, Picard at least figure out how they communicate. He figures out that it's through metaphor and through imagery of like previous acts in their history.
Yeah.
So we learn that Darmok and Jalad were two heroes in their mythology, and at Tanagra, they fought a beast together. The beast of Tanagra together. And so that's what the captain was meaning. And Picard puts all that together. Meanwhile, the Enterprise and Riker kind of having a standoff with the alien ship. You're trying to break the beam to get Picard off the planet. And like that tension kind of rises throughout the episode, whilst it goes back and forth between Picard solving the problem and Picard kind of ramping up the tension between the two starships. The episode ends when the alien captain is killed by the beast, and the Enterprise beams Picard back up onto the Enterprise, and Picard manages to talk to the alien crew using all of his skills that he learned on the planet to defuse the situation and make like appropriate first contact with the aliens, and it sort of ends happy and merry. And so, it was a really quick one actually to do the summary on. So, which is far different to the Royale, which has like quite a lot going on.
And also, there's it's interesting. Both the Royal and this one that have basically very little, if any, B plot. Whereas quite a lot of Star Trek episodes have
big A plot,
different A and B plots, don't they? Both of these. And I think the simplicity of the story means that you're going to just express it quickly, right? That's basically it.
Exactly. So they're all in on this plot pretty much. And I think it really works. I think it's a really punchy episode. So where do you want to start? I mean, I could start talking about let's talk about the opening. I love the opening of this episode. For me, this is one of the cleaner sort of templates for opening. You get captain's log. Here's the situation. It then cuts to the conference room, and the characters discuss the problem. You get all of the different points of view. You get Worf's point of view, Riker's point of view, Troy, Data, and Picard's on just the situation. You get some nice little backstory. It then immediately cuts to we're there now, and we're trying to make communications with the aliens. It goes wrong. Communications break down. Then he gets teleported onto the planet. Hi, your card.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah, it incorporates lots of elements we see over and over again. The meeting, it starts with that. It's quite good. Everyone reflects their usual worldviews, and that makes it sound like we're saying it's predictable and cliche. That's not what it's about. Worf is clearly a much more about martial issues, right? So he's going to express himself that way. That kind of makes sense. I like the back and forth and the respect as well. Everyone had, everyone's free to say what they think. That's always a good thing. It is a punchy episode. Matt, again, we're playing on Star Trek shows. Confrontation is often a way an episode starts and cuts to the, the space, the frontier in both the original series and Next Gen. And occasionally in Deep Space Nine, when it's one of those episodes where it's real, right? There's
Mhm.
occasionally you have some of those. Yeah, so you can go back to the original Star Trek, and you've got things like Balance of Terror, and that famous one with the weird head, which turns out to be basically a little kid who's an alien messing with them. There's all sorts of ones like that. So we're kind of used to that.
Yeah,
I
I
did
liked.
like. I mean,
Go
this
on.
is deep sci-fi. That's one of the things I want to say about it. When I first
Mhm.
saw it, it was like it struck me really hard that this was a philosophical thing. Like, there's a famous, I think Wittgenstein had the philosopher, talked about. Well, even if a lion could talk, a man would not be able to talk to a lion because they just got totally different conceptions of reality. And this was almost like that. The Tamarians communicating in an entirely different way. So it felt
Yeah.
like we're talking a philosophical viewpoint here. That's what this is, which is hard sci-fi, right? So and they sort of roll it into quite a cool story. It reminded me a lot of the film Enemy Mine. You ever seen the film Enemy Mine? But human and an
No.
alien basically stranded on a planet that they're at war. These two races, but the two of them are stranded on a planet, and how to just survive the planet, they have to start working together. Great film. Great film. But they didn't have these communicate. Apart from learning each other's languages, it wasn't the same. This is a different thing. This is philosophically, this race just communicating in a way we just don't understand, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, some interesting stuff, and I really like this episode the first time I saw it. This rewatch, not so much. I still like it a lot, but it just I don't know. It didn't quite hold up for me. I would, like I say, I wouldn't put it in the top 10. I think it's a very good episode though, and memorable. So it's got a lot going for it.
I'm interested to hear. I mean, we can talk about reviews maybe towards the end. I think, yeah, because I'm interested to hear. But maybe I can change your mind. Maybe as we talk about this episode a bit more.
Possibly, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
open.
So just hopping back right to the conference, I thought there was a lot of nice character interaction here. Like you mentioned that Data rattles off the facts, right? That we've met them 7 times over 100 years. Captain Silvestri of the Shiku Maru has said that, communications is impossible. Worf says, well, they've lured us here with a signal. It could be a trap. They could be posting up on our borders. This could be an invasion start. And Picard kind of takes all of this in and says, look, at the end of the day, communications is a matter of patience and imagination. And I feel like we have both. They've offered a hand. We have to, take it in good faith that it is a good faith conversation. And I thought that framed the mission really well. And it really, it framed the mission from their, our hero's point of view. We know that they're going in with this optimistic view.
Yeah.
And
I found it interesting that later on Picard almost does the opposite to what he's saying here. His actions, whereas he assumes the other captain wants to fight him when knives are sort of waved around.
yeah,
Though the guy
which
never
is fairly
lunges for
legit.
him. Yeah, kind
It's
of.
fairly. He gets kidnapped and then he's waving knives.
Yeah, the kidnap. Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. But
Yeah.
it could be it was lured there for some ritual reason, right? That it could be a bit of that.
Yeah.
This could have turned into Arena, for example.
Exactly. I thought they were just fan baiting with the. This is going to be a Gorn fight, by the way. This is going to be Picard's Gorn fight, and then it's like bait and switch. No. This is about Picard solving a language problem, which I love.
Yeah, I also you get it very well done in that the dialogue means nothing, but from the interaction of them watching the other ship where the captain's talking to his lieutenant, who's getting more and more angry, you feel like he's the one. That guy's the one saying stuff like, "Look, we don't know why they're here. This could be a trap," and things like that. But we don't understand the lingo. We don't understand the references. And stuff like that. And that pays off at the end. We see that once he's communicated with, he calms right down and he's much more comfortable as being diplomatic rather than martial.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's some interesting stuff going on. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. And I think Riker is a good example of he's a good foil to the other first officer who's left on the alien ship, because Riker's left in the dark, right? He's got Worf on his shoulder saying, they've just nicked the captain. Essentially,
Yeah,
we can fight them, and we can take down this like field that's blocking us from transporting the captain up. And Riker's, trying to be, well, no, we need to be diplomatic, but also can't ignore the fact that his captain has just been yoinked, and he can't communicate in any way to the opposing ship, or what appears to be the opposing ship.
yeah. But he's doing a
Yeah.
captainly thing, which is waiting to understand exactly what's happening rather than assume. I often sometimes feel like when in situations like this, you feel Riker is really what would Picard do here, right? I feel like that comes through quite strongly. You can tell. I can tell. This is season 5. That Riker is quite influenced by Picard's way of doing things, because Riker, just you feel like without that mentorship would be way more Kirky and just kick shit off, right? But he's much more measured, right?
I really liked Riker's command style, actually. Like he immediately there's a great moment where I think Data is like, oh, sir, like, we can think of a way to get through the shield, and Riker doesn't even ask him to explain the solution. He just says, right, get on it, Troy, help him. And then he starts to talk about, he's like, right, well, let's get a shuttle. I'm willing to risk a shuttle. He's gambling that they won't start a war over fighting the shuttle.
Yeah.
Really cool command style from Riker. I actually really liked some of the decisions he made. He's in a tough spot. Like without the captain, I thought that the way that they framed that tension between the two starships and Riker in particular, I think he makes some really tough calls. And like you say, I wonder what what other captains would have done in that situation. Like, what would Kirk have done? What would Scotty have done if Kirk was down?
Well, we know what Scotty would have done for sure. It'd be right. Wolf would be like, "Calm down, Scott."
Yeah. And like, yeah.
I have to also mention we do get a little spot of actually Jad appears for the first time. I think this is her first appearance on the show. It's very cute. Right. She later has that romance, kind of minor romance with Wesley, right?
This is one of the 2 episodes she's in, right? This is the game.
Only 2.
This one?
I didn't realize.
I think it's this one in the game. I don't know. There might be a third one, but
we gotta do the game sometime. I think.
Yeah. I know why you want to do the game.
Yeah. I just like the vibe of it. There was definitely 2 men having to work together to sort of overcome a common thing. And there were some nice touches. But I don't know why. I just rewatched it this time. It felt a little, okay. But there's some great beats in it. But I have trouble at the end because I've got no idea how Picard picks up all that stuff and can talk. And I don't even know what he's trying to say, apart from the really obvious ones. But he obviously knows what he's saying. It's having an impression. But I felt that there was a bit of bullshitty license in that bit myself. But I don't know. What did you make of the end?
So to be obvious to everyone, the ending, right, is one of my favorite Picard moments. Actually, it's like maybe top. It's probably why the episode is one of my favorite episodes. It's probably the best Picard moment of all time, or one of them, right? So, as far as Riker and the rest of the crew are concerned, the captain's been isolated. They've been able to track his life signs whilst he's on the planet, and they can see that the alien captain was killed by another alien beast that's on the planet.
Yeah.
So they can see that. But other than that, they don't really know what Picard's been up to. And so they know that he's been fighting with this alien because they're tracking his vitals, right? Anyway, the alien captain dies. They transport Picard back onto the ship, and then also while this is happening, they're kind of gearing up for the fight with these aliens. It's kind of got to a point where the tension's boiled right over. Riker's like, shields up, phaser banks loaded, right? Like target the systems. The alien ship has like shot the warp nacelle out, so the Enterprise can't just hightail it out of there. So it's looking like a fight.
Yeah.
Picard just walks onto the bridge. He immediately calls to hail the ship. He doesn't even no announcements. But even there's a great little shot of Brent Spiner as he kind of looks over his shoulder as he glances over his shoulder as Picard just walks on. His shirt's all ripped. He's all beaten up and bruised.
Oh yeah, that's very Kirky, wasn't it? His shirt.
It was, yeah. And
we'll come back to that.
He busts out all of this speech. The Temba with his arms wide. He busts out all of the speech. Shaka when the walls fell, right? Like the captain died because there's they're like, oh yes, he understands. His eyes wide open, right? The alien is like, finally they understand what we're saying. What happened to the captain? He's like, Shaka when the walls fell, i.e. he died. And they're all upset about it. And then he offers Temba his arms wide, the captain's knife, and then the guy says Temba his arms closed or something, or his palms shut or something. Says basically keep it. And I was like,
you understood it better than me then.
As far as the crew is concerned, right? Like he's just walked onto the bridge from basically living out in the brush for a while. He solved the problem completely by himself. He diffuses the whole situation in a second.
Yeah, and then that's a cat, right?
I was like, that was badass. Yeah, that's such a badass. I know there's there's the fights that Kirk does with the Gorn and stuff, and I'm like, for me, this is the Picard moment where he just rolls in. So cool. Such a cool moment.
Yeah, it was cool. It was really cool. Yeah, it did make me chuckle though when I saw the rip shirt because that Kirk loves. Kirk, that happened to Kirk all the time, didn't it? All the time there was a rip shirt. But this is I don't recall any other episodes where Picard has a rip shirt. Gotta be honest.
No, other than the action movies he's in, right? Yeah.
I thought the acting in this was really good. Obviously, Patrick Stewart just sells everything. But the actual script lived up to him in this case, and I thought it was pretty good. I also like the other captain, Dayton, right?
Dayton, played by Paul Winfield. That's right.
Yes, who is famous in Star Trek for being the captain who has the weird bug put in his ear in Wrath of Khan, along with along with Chekhov, right? So yes, he's kind of well known for that.
Yeah, they were both excellent, and that's another thing. I really skipped over some of the detail about when Picard and Dayton are on the planet surviving together.
Yeah,
the frustration that they both show. You can tell that they both want to get along.
Yeah,
and the amount of emotion, the costume is excellent, the cosmetics to show the alien, but the amount of
really good.
the amount of emotion that Paul Winfield manages to get out of his eyes and just his body language through the costume, playing alongside Patrick Stewart, I thought was excellent. You really felt what they were trying to give out.
He lost his face acting abilities completely, apart from the eyes. So it was all body, voice, eyes, right? It was all that. And it does really well. And you can see turning points in this episode, like when Picard finally realizes, he doesn't want us to fight. He wants us to fight alongside each other. And that's what, this phrase means and that phrase means. And slowly working out the phrases. And then we also then get when he finally penny drops, it's about metaphor, right? It's about metaphor.
And I think so I think the translations that I sort of put together, right, is that I think is somewhat close. He figures out about it's obviously we talked about Darmok and Jalad, right?
At Tanagra, yeah.
At Tanagra, which is a place. There's a cool we've got the Shaka, which is a bad thing has happened. When the walls fell specifically is failure, or and then when the walls fell is death.
Yeah, it means you got lost. Yeah.
Temba, his arms wide, as in Temba was giving to somebody or giving to people at some point. and then Tembo, his arms held close or something like that, is like he's not taking it.
Yeah.
There was Darmok in the ocean, which is on isolation, the concept of being alone.
Or starting the quest or starting towards something, right? But
Yeah.
isolation was the main thing for that.
Yeah. And I think that's about the extent of it from what is
Yeah.
used in the
I was
episode.
thinking, how do you start working on this as communication? I guess you have to have your translator hooked up to the history and geography and politics
Yeah. So
of
this is
that to be able to talk to them again, right?
Yeah, this is another thing I loved about the episode, right? So Picard is on the planet with this alien captain and is able to learn some of this stuff. Like there's a great scene where Picard fails to make a fire. He gets close, but he fails to make a fire. And the alien captain gives him the fire, right? And Tembo his arms wide. And Picard kind of picks that up, that he's trying to say, I'm trying to give you this.
Yeah.
And then Data and Troy, on the other hand, are basically studying the language, right? They're not able to have any examples.
Words. Yeah.
They're just looking at the words and saying, okay, Darmok was a person on this planet, and also Tanagra is a location on that planet. They're probably related. But without the context of who Darmok was or what happened at Tanagra, it means nothing to them. And they make that really great point of coming to Riker and saying, we know how they talk, but we don't have the context. So they use this example in the episode, which I loved because it's kind of like explaining it to you in a way that the audience understands, was talking about Romeo and Juliet, which is what most of us studied that as a child, right? I mean,
we know the basic story.
Didn't know that, right? So again, it's like a cultural thing that most humans, at least at least in the Western world, have a concept of. And it was saying something like, Romeo and Juliet on the balcony to represent the
love,
feeling or the imagery of romance, right?
Yeah.
And it's like, if I said that to someone who hadn't read or seen or whatever of Romeo and Juliet, just Romeo and Juliet on the balcony would mean nothing to them. And I thought that was such a cool way of like slicing through exactly what they're trying to get across with this, language.
Yeah.
I thought it was
so.
Really
of
cool.
course, when you first encounter this, you've got no hope of understanding what it's saying because you've got zero context for their language. I thought I like that. I quite like the realization of the invisible alien. I thought that worked quite well. It still stands up, I'd say. Would you say that? Yeah,
I liked it. I felt like they didn't. I felt like it was like, oh, we're touching on the lines of the Predator here.
Yeah. That's fine. That's fine.
It was fine. I did think though, like the size of it. I'm like, Picard hasn't really got a chance here.
No, it was something large. I assumed it was just very slow, so that was his. It wasn't that slow though. I also like the sort of way. Picard gets his, justice moment when he's trying to help the other captain fight, and suddenly he's beamed up. Or
that was a cool part.
Yeah, that was a very cool little moment.
Yeah, like midway through the episode, the Forge and Data come up with that plan to break through the beam, and Riker kind of YOLOs it. He's kind of like, he's in an awkward spot where he's like, if I try and do this, it'll tip our hand that we're trying to do something dodgy. So the aliens might attack us. And if it is some sort of ritual, we will be ruining the ritual, which might ruin diplomatic relations. So he kind of makes a call like, you know what? The captain's life's possibly more valuable. And this kind of plays in later. So right at the very, very end of the episode, Picard and Riker are having a quick conversation in the ready room. And Picard is essentially just sort of reminiscing about the events that just happened. And he's talking about how the captain was willing to sacrifice himself for the chance of two races, connecting and having that and successfully communicating. He's willing to sacrifice himself. He was willing to go into that fight with this beast that and he might lose, and he did.
Yeah.
And you can see that affects Picard. He's thinking about that. And you're almost sure that it's just another layer that gets added onto his character.
But when you've seen
Riker
someone make a sacrifice like that, it's gonna affect you, right? And make you realise you can better yourself by aspiring to be that kind of person, right?
That's right. And Riker makes the opposite call twice. He decides to risk diplomatic relations to save the captain twice.
Yeah.
Which is the opposite of what Picard, or at least what I think Picard learns, because the other captain would never have done that, which I thought was cool. Sort of unspoken thing. And Riker kind of doesn't even acknowledge it. At the end of the episode, he's kind of like, yeah, that's cool, man, and leaves. But I'm like, no, the lesson was for you, man. And you can see that Picard, it sits in Picard's brain, but I feel like it was actually that was a lesson for Riker, which
I still think that Riker's clearly been influenced by Picard and trying to emulate him somewhat. To the good, I was wondering how the whole premise, them being beamed down to a planet to have to work together, whether that was the captain's plan or whether his civilization has said, we're trying to establish community. They're obviously having difficulty with us. So what we're going to have to do is get you and the other captain into a situation where you have to work together. And it makes you wonder, again, this kind of ties back to, okay, they talk in metaphors. That means they probably think in metaphors. So metaphors, or stories at least, are a powerful way of their civilization being steered, right? So they specifically wanted to mimic Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, right? They specifically wanted to mimic those conditions. So, which is interesting, right? So if your entire culture is based on metaphorical thinking, you're going to emulate and aspire to the good stories or the stories you like, aren't you? As a way of living. So it's kind of interesting.
I think, if I remember correctly, there's a wonderful scene, the first scene before Picard is stolen and before the captain's beamed down to the planet. There's a great scene where the comms channel is open and the aliens are on the view screen, and they are arguing about something. We don't understand at that point, but they're arguing about whether they should do Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, because the captain announces that, and everyone's kind of kicks off on his ship. And there's a great moment when Picard sort of is stumped by what's happening on the view screen. He turns to Riker. He's like, "Impressions number one, like what the hell? What's going on?" Yeah, I thought that was great. And I think, I believe it is the captain, because it feels like the crew disagree with him. Presumably, don't put yourself at risk for this. And he's like, no, I'm doing it. So
and that's kind of indicated is the captain taking the initiative. I also really like the touch at the end when they're talking to Picard to keep the dagger, and the whole thing will be known as Picard and Death on El Adril, right? So that means it's become integrated into their culture as a meaningful phrase. Kind of a new version of Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, right? Exactly. I guess.
Because it plays out differently. Yeah, it plays out differently, right? The captain dies.
So this is a
first contact. Story. It could
really,
be first contact.
Yeah, and I do like the fact that as the other captains dying, Picard's talking about Gilgamesh.
That's right. He tells a story from our own, which is an interesting. Gilgamesh was an interesting.
It's so old as well. Because he could have picked Arthur, or there are several. I'm trying to think of where two warriors. It could have been. Oh, I don't know. Actually, I can't think of any now. Two warriors working together for a common
I thought it was
good.
a cheeky little insight into Picard as well, right? Like, he's a human that lives, what is it, like 800 years in the future, right?
Yeah.
And he knows. I mean, Gilgamesh, the story of Gilgamesh. I mean, some people today wouldn't know what that is, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, for a human to know that story, and actually, it's kind of funny because Troy references Romeo and Juliet, which would also be ancient text
Yeah.
at that point in history. But yeah, like interesting that like they he can remember it. He's not got a pad or anything. It comes off the top of his head. The power of stories has traveled that far into the future that a human can recall it at whim. I thought it was interesting, and obviously the touch of telling a story to a race that lives through imagery of stories was an interesting way to send the captain off. Like it was a
It was a sign of respect, somewhat, right?
Yeah, it was a touching scene. I thought,
Because it
again,
obviously
really
pleased
clever.
the other captain as he died, right? It pleased him to hear this. He seems to understand the story without knowing the places or anything. But yeah.
When the walls fell
overall,
down.
I quite like this episode, but like I say, it's not a top 10 for me. But it's top 20 maybe, top 20 maybe.
Yeah, interesting. Where so you know how Picard keeps the knife?
Yeah.
Do you know where that knife shows up in later TNG episodes? Can you remember where it shows up? I had to look this up.
I can't remember. No, you'll have to tell me.
It turns up in 2 Troy-based episodes. It's like basically Troy's bane from this point onwards. She uses it when she becomes super old. She attacks Picard with it in that episode. I can't remember the name of it.
I don't remember that one. I don't remember that one at all.
She attacks Picard with that, and then there's the episode where Troy gets her hand cut off with it. Yeah, it's basically it's Troy's bane from this point onwards. You know, some of the props that Picard collects throughout his adventures become like nice moments. The knife really doesn't. It kind of just becomes a weapon.
No. We all know about the flute, say, but
this episode as well. It reminds me of obviously you know about text-based adventure games. There was a text-based adventure game that I was recommended once, and it was a game that was made up of completely made-up words.
Okay.
And so it was English words, but it was completely made up, and it was very similar to, you almost, if you played it, it reminds me of this episode because you learn how to play. You eventually realize that, that thing is currency. That word, blawn, is a currency. And I can have many blawns. And you kind of, you sort of figure out, I can head Zeit, which ends, I can go thing. And you learn that's direction. That's probably a direction. And I can have this and I can go there. And you sort of build it out of your actions that you can do with these things and the way you can interact with them. It doesn't matter that the words don't mean anything. You can kind of put meaning on them. And it kind of reminds me of that. I thought it was interesting that you can complete a text-based adventure game of completely made-up words. It means you could probably communicate with an alien race eventually, if that's,
Yeah, I mean, in many respects, this story reflects any movie or TV show where two people talking different language have to kind of learn to communicate, by holding up a thing and saying, this is a knife. What do you this is different now. This is all about metaphor and allegory. You need context for that. Whereas a word for something is a lot easier to sort of develop, and start to learn. But metaphors is like something else completely. It's like you got to see when they say the words what they're trying to do. Arms wide when you're offering something. When you're saying so and so arms wide, when you're offering something that starts to embed it, right? So, but it's a lot harder to learn that way. I also like the fact that it ends with Picard reading like more ancient texts and talking about to Riker that
the Iliad.
Homeric hymns. I don't even know what that is. I know it's Homer, but I don't know what it is otherwise. But saying studying our own mythology might help us understand others better. Which is always true. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so this is an easy top 10 episode for me. I think it really shows off Picard's strengths and kind of the mission. Like for me, Star Trek is all about this kind of stuff. I'm not that bothered about phases and wars with the Klingons and even the exploration stuff. Like this for me is like you mentioned it, like that hard sci-fi.
Yeah,
I think it's.
I mean, Star Wars. Star Trek isn't Star Wars. Well, I was going to say Star Trek isn't Star Wars is about the pew pew, right? Star Trek is about thinking your way out of things. Now there can be lots of action and stuff, but ultimately the real action is reasoning and working out how to overcome, in this case, language issues or communication issues, but it can be martial as well. But it's still about intelligence and reasoning, isn't it? That's what Star Trek.
It was thought provoking. It was an episode that made you think. That's an interesting.
It did.
That's an interesting problem.
Definitely.
And there's a great, the Royale is a great episode where you can shut your brain off. This one turned my brain right on. Right.
Yeah, and indeed, that's one of the reasons I really liked it when I first saw it. It was like, wow, that's really, I recognise it as hard sci-fi right from the get-go. As soon as it's like, oh, this is about how they think and communicate, right? And those different things that are causing this barrier, but they're overcoming it.
And I think, everyone's performance in it is excellent. I also think that everybody's character is interesting in some way. The way Riker works things out, the way that Worf is trying to deal with the problem, Data and Troy trying to solve the problem. Obviously, Picard and Dathan, the way they're working together. Everybody is at the top of their game. The episode is really punchy. They don't do any fluff. It's really tight from a story perspective. There's very little fluff or stuff that's not valuable. And it honestly, that was it. 45-minute runtime. It goes as quick as you like.
Yeah.
So for me, really top episode.
It's interesting here because I'm looking at some production notes on Wikipedia, and it mentions that Rick Berman, the showrunner, hated the idea, and it took 2 years to actually come about. From first initial suggestion to actually precipitate into it. It's to Rick Berman's credit, he allowed that to continue and to say, look, stop with this bollocks. We're not doing it. He allowed, it to sort of proceed, and it worked out. It was a great episode, right?
It was a great episode, Mark.
Let's say the first half of season 5's got some good ones in, hasn't it?
Season 5 slaps. Season 5 is a hell of a season.
Because I looked at the next episode. I watched this on Paramount Plus. I've got a Paramount Plus, so I was watching it on that. And it's like, oh yeah, wow! The next episode is Inside Row, which is another great episode. An interesting, challenging episode. Challenging to the status quo Star Trek, at least.
Well, it's got Time's Arrow Part 1. You've got the Inner Light.
Inner Light, wow.
Inner Light, right? One of the best episodes of all time. Borg is in this episode, in this season, sorry.
Well, at some point, maybe Christmas, we're going to have to sit down and come up with our own top 10s, aren't we?
Well, obviously, The Game is in one of your favourite episodes, The Game. Yeah.
Nah.
Season 5 is a great season. Also, it's got disasters in season 5 too.
Yeah,
where the ship blows up and Troy has to take command. Dude, season 5.
Yeah. I think what we got to do, actually, you know what? For Christmas, we'd have to do 3 shows, right? And this is what I'm suggesting: 5 top 5, 5 bottom 5, 5
good.
5 odd 5. All right.
Okay, yeah, I'm up for that. I'm up for that. Yeah.
And I'm totally happy to have 10 or 15 honourable mentions within such episodes. So we can just freewheel, right? But we can say this didn't make the cut, but how about this? It'd be fun, right? We'll save that.
You know how I always rail about how Troy's ability never gets used, but actually, every time we've done one of these episodes, I've talked about how good Troy was in the episode, or how they used her ability really well. In this episode, they use her ability really well again.
Yes,
So
you're wrong.
nobody
Aren't
knows.
you?
Yeah,
You're wrong.
nobody knows what they're talking about, and Picard turns to Troy. He's like, "Counselor, like, any thoughts?" And she's like, "Well, I can tell that they have nothing but good intentions." And I'm like, "Oh my god, she's so useful," and they used it right. I wonder if it's. I have a selective memory about her, just sort of, when it's a guy who's clearly lying, and then she turns to the captain and says, "Captain, he's lying." Maybe it's just like one thing that's stuck in my brain. But yeah, again, a great use of Troy's powers again.
Yes. Yeah.
I should I eat my words.
Yeah. It makes me think about modern in the modern world. I mean, like imagery and stories are a massive part of human culture, right? And it feels like memes and such like are now quite a significant part. And like it's almost like the language in this is the equivalent in our current sort of world is internet memes, right? Everyone knows, this is fine. Everyone knows what that means, right?
Yeah.
When you see that picture, it means something quite specific, and everyone knows what that means. But yeah, it's kind of interesting. There's some interesting stuff going on. That's for sure.
Yeah, I think it shows that like I think it shows. I mean, there's loads of stuff that I love about the episode, but like I think one of the things I love about it is it shows like our ability as people to not only come up with this kind of language and solving these kind of interesting problems, but like the language, and if you just look at the languages on the Earth, right? We speak all sorts of languages. Across, and there are small tiny islands, like Japan, for example, where nobody else needs. Well, I mean, they do nowadays, I suppose, but before it was just only Japan spoke Japanese. And we managed to communicate and we figured it out. And we've got very similar references points. I just think that it's language is an interesting thing. It's a continually evolving thing. And I feel like the human brain is a fantastic thing to be able to sort of glean understanding from others somehow, which is kind of like a magical thing, right? We don't just kill each other when we see each other and we can't understand each other. We try and figure out what, it's an optimistic view. It's an optimistic view that
it's
we
a
can try
Star
and
Trek view.
Exactly, and I love it. I love it. I don't want to subscribe to this, this dark universe.
No, we're in the dark universe at the minute, but we'll have a light one again one day. It'll be fine.
No politics, please.
Yeah. I've been looking at some of the comments, various reviews of this, and there's a lot. This is a very well regarded episode.
You're wrong. You're wrong. It's a great episode.
Yeah, okay. I'm gonna just plow through that, right? One thing we haven't mentioned that is mentioned here, which I did want to pick up on, is mentioned how good the music is as a suitable sort of counterpoint of what's going on. Yeah, it's very well matched, and sometimes really good music goes under the radar because it's so good and works so well. You just don't notice it, right?
Yeah, I've heard that before.
So that's good because it's not. It's like that's a weird musical choice, right? It's one of those. And get this. The Washington Post in 2016 ranked Darmok as the second best episode of all Star Trek.
I'm not surprised. I'm really not surprised. I think that.
And it's in various top 10s, top 20s, top 25s. It's in various lists under that. The Guardian reviewed it and said this episode is one of 6 examples of smarter version of Star Trek out of all the episodes. I don't know what they were talking about there, but yeah, it's a very smart one. And beautifully, one of the phrases is beautifully executed episode. Yes, it is very well episode.
It's beautifully executed. It's a great idea. And there's nothing, it's got a great budget. There's nothing else to say really. They really do knock out the park. And yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, I mean, I obviously I knew that it was well regarded, but yeah,
And,
I'm glad it got its taps.
and as I mean, we mentioned at the start of the show, there's T-shirts with Darmok and Jalad at Tanagra, right? With Picard and Dath on the T-shirt, all sorts. It's a lovely, optimistic episode, that's for sure, compared to some of the others we see. So yeah, it's
Star Trek. It is a pure embodiment of Star Trek. And it's optimistic way of solving problems, and yeah, it's great. I love it.
Yeah, I was thinking about how if we were to describe ourselves to this race, it would be Mark and Gary at the mic spouting bullshit.
Yeah.
When the walls fell. No.
Yeah. When the walls fell.
Yeah. Yes. So yeah, great.
Yeah, I think what's it next week? Are you picking next week's episode?
I am picking this one. Should we tell or should we?
Oh no, that's part of the magic.
Surprise.
You've got to log in next week to find out what we're talking about.
Yeah, so it might be TNG, but it might not. Let's put it.
We might be going off TNG, folks. That's pretty wild.
Yes.
Yeah, so it'll be exciting.
Yes.
Or not. We'll just be on the game.
Well, I don't know. What I've got in mind, I haven't seen myself in a long time, and I'm hoping it's good as I remember it, but you just don't know. Memory's a funny thing, right?
Yeah, because exactly. But yeah, I think that wraps it up, mate, to be honest.
Yeah.
Any more final thoughts on Darmok?
No, like I say, I haven't watched this in a long time, and I was really looking forward to it, and I felt like it didn't quite deliver what I was expecting. It's my expectations, though. It's still a very solid episode. It's not one I think of first when I think of the great TNG episodes, but it ain't far behind them. Well, there are lots of really good episodes. Let's remember that.
There is. It's true, but this is up there, brother.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But the thing is, I think there's the great ones, then there's my favourites, and then Darmok is probably in the list of the next set of really good ones for me. So yeah, I'm not sure if it's a favourite. I'm not sure. I'd have to think it through. But honestly, some of my favourites are terrible episodes. Frankly,
well, that's okay.
I won't lie.
Right.
So yeah.
Yeah, for me, obviously, this is almost certainly watch it every year, I'd say. Like, I watch my favorite episodes at least yearly. This is in that list, so I was excited to talk about it. That's why I picked it. Obviously, it's been talked to death. I'm sure there's a million podcasts talking about Darmok at some point, but I wanted to talk about it, and I really enjoyed talking about it, and I really enjoyed watching it again. And I will, the next time I watch it next year, I'll really enjoy it. So.
Yeah, it's funny coming into this. I thought this was going to be quite a short recording because I thought, well, it's a fairly straightforward story. There's some quite interesting points to make, but not that much. But you know what? I was wrong.
Yeah,
there's way more to talk about than I thought we'd be getting out of it. So yeah,
I find that with TNG as a whole. Who knew we were talking an hour about the Royale? There's just so much good
episode,
stuff.
Right?
there's just so much good stuff in this TV show, and I know it had a crazy budget and fantastic actors, but I gotta say, I mean, this show is probably one of the best TV shows ever made, bar none.
Yeah, it's very good. It's in my top 5. When I say that, I mean Star Trek as a whole. It's in my top 5 for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. And I think we'll just wrap it up there then, pal.
Okie doke. So that winds up this episode. Until next time, is bye from me.
And bye from me.
Until next time on Tellypathic.